r/NoSleep. Posted by u/Doomdweller. I look at it in the reflection. It stares back. If you turn on the lights late at night, when there are no street lights, the windows become mirrors, reflecting the interior of the room. In the reflection, I see myself, clothes scattered, unfinished drawings pinned to the wall, and a figure standing in the center of the room. Its silhouette seems blurred compared to the rest of the reflection. It never moves, does not disappear when you look at it, it is impossible to touch. It is always there and you feel it staring. I really like horror stories. They always give a more digestible way to cope with terrible things all of us encounter, the death, the illness, the brutality of others. Unlike fiction, my life was full of real and traumatizing events. I saw a lot of real-life horrors even before I hit 12. Now I am 20 and have lots of gruesome stories to tell. The hits among friends are how is it to live near a cemetery, changing schools, changing serial killers, stalker in the tinted car, a night train full of crazies and brutal murders on my street. You might have a friend like me. A storyteller with a smirk, excitement pouring out of every single word. Trying to terrify you, to warn you of the dangers lurking around. They collect them for years and treasure every single detail. But they know that every story comes with a price. Every one of them is a new fear, a new nightmare lived through haunting them until they tell the story. But I guess witnessing this set of events didn't give me a good tale to tell. I feel like I can't tell this to my friends or family. They will probably think I am crazy or something. But I need to tell it to someone. That's why I am here. And before I start, I want to mention that English is not my native language, but I don't want to leave any traces for sake of anonymity. I am not sure when it all started. I already was in my second year of university. My education was not a smooth sail, and as an illustration student I worked days and nights just to get all of the projects done. The stress levels were off limits. But I managed. One night everything started to change. I remember waking up, everything shaking, and hearing a blood-curdling scream that terrified me. Only minutes later realizing it was me screaming my lungs out and my parents shaking me, trying to calm me down. I remember their faces distraught and my little sister looking scared sitting near. I was really confused, but I brushed it off saying I saw a horror film before going to bed. But I didn't. Everyone left. I sat there on my bed looking at nothing, thinking, should I go back to bed? What even did I see in my nightmare? I tried to remember. I couldn't. Even later, even now. I still scream in my sleep sometimes. I think myself as a rational person first. But I have a wild imagination like a lot of artists do. And since that screaming incident I started to notice things around my house that excited me a little. It's an occasional door opening with no windows open. Feeling my hair moving when I sit to working like someone was touching it. I joked around. Pretending I am talking to some poor lost soul. I even gave it a name, Alex. So every time I thought I came around something paranormal like an item disappearing, I asked Ghost Alex to return it and thanked when I found it. I guess it was just a way to easily dismiss little things and not to dwell on them. And I have a problem with overthinking. In a few months Alex became a part of my home. I imagined stories about who was the ghost during their life and did a small history research about the land I lived on for university. Alex kinda helped. Few times I even poured my soul out to it. I knew it was just a part of my imagination and joke gone too far. But I found comfort in someone always being near, listening to my ramblings when the exams are nearing and I am stuck at my house alone. Pathetic, I agree. But I swear I wasn't delusional. Exams ended and so did my need for Alex. I could just relax and do something for myself during winter break. So sat down to work on some oil paintings. On the day before I worked late sipping on some coffee. I almost finished and had a great mood but still focused and in the zone. I lowered my eyes to mix the right color and looked back up at the painting. What was in front of me was so clear it took me only half a second to fully see it. It was big sickly yellow hand laying on my canvas just half a meter away from my face. The nails were sharp and the skin was almost too perfect. It looked like someone was grabbing canvas from behind, but nothing was behind the canvas. I jumped in my chair, coffee spilling on the floor and my knees. I automatically looked down and again on the canvas and it was gone. The room was eerily quiet. The fresh layer of paint was smudged. The image of that hand was, still imprinted in my mind. The coffee started to seep in my jeans but I was too shaken to clean the mess. The only thing on my mind was it's not real. I stood up a little bit shaken and walked around the canvas slowly. The paint was on the other side of the easel too. As I stood looking at the trail of paint I froze up. I felt the presence behind. I couldn't bear a second of it. I just sprinted out of the room and shut the door, not looking back. I went to my bedroom, turning on all the lights on the way, and locked it. I took off the jeans and shirt, throwing them and putting on pajamas. I breathed in, trying to calm myself. And then I saw paint. Paint on the back of my shirt. Barely visible 5 little spots. I felt a familiar moving of my hair. I backed into the corner of the bright lit room. And then I saw the reflection. I don't remember how I went to sleep that night. But I woke up screaming. The sun was already up and the lights were turned off. I felt exhausted. My parents were already at work, as was my sister in school. I didn't want to stay in the house alone with that thing. So I drank some coffee and headed to university. My thoughts were occupied with what I saw yesterday, and as a result I didn't even know that university didn't work that week. So I went to the nearest mall and sat there all day staring at nothing. I headed home in the evening and hesitated before entering. I was returned to the present by my mom knocking on the window of the kitchen asking if I had forgotten the keys. I shook my head no and went inside. The walk to my room was long. With the creak of the door, I stepped inside and my hand hovered above the light switch. I was torturing myself. I flipped the switch. It was there. In the same spot. The moment I saw it, I shut the door with a loud thud. My heart raced as I held the door handle with a tight grip. "Dinner is on the table. Don't let it get cold," Mom calling startled me. I made 2 steps back from my room. And as I was sure it wasn't following, I entered the kitchen. My kitchen is pretty big with 2 big windows on 2 walls you can see entering. And I saw it in all of them. The reflections showed it standing near my usual sitting place. Seeing it felt like a punch to the gut. Everyone was already finishing their meal. I tried to excuse myself from the table, but it didn't work with my parents. I tried not to look at the windows. I sat down and started into the plate. I made myself eat dinner, almost throwing up at the thought of it being right behind me. I glanced at it a couple of times. It didn't move. "Sis, what are you looking at? Do you see anything in the window?" She squinted her eyes and looked at me confused. "Are you trying to scare me again?" "No. I'm not. Forget it." She shrugged me off and headed to sleep. I felt confused. Scared. I went to my room again. Walking inside, I turned the lights off immediately and waited. I stared into the darkness trying to see anything. After some time, tiredness finally kicked in and I decided to sleep in my clothes on the floor near the door. From that day onward, it was appearing in the reflections of my windows at night. For a while, I was too scared to even bear the image, so I started to draw curtains before turning the lights on. It rose questions with my parents. But soon I broke the hook on one of the curtains and I had to encounter it again and again. It never moved and hasn't changed. So after a week or so, seeing it only in the windows gave me a false sense of safety. Like it was outside. So I stopped bothering myself. Funny how you can't be scared for a long time. Deep down I wanted to tell everyone about it. But it was impossible. How can you make someone believe in something they don't see? So I tripped with my words every time and ended with "never mind." Meanwhile, I got kinda used to it. And the university already started, so I needed to work again. I woke up, it was still dark outside, and returned home when it was already dark. So it was always there when I was home. I stopped avoiding the places it would stand to. When I noticed that I could kinda feel it, then I walked by or right through the place it was supposed to stand. Like the air was trying to avoid it. It unnerved me a little. I took some of the art assignments home. I felt it didn't like that. Even though it was just a silhouette in the reflection, I felt it more when I was drawing. Like it was more tense. And then it clicked. I turned my head to the reflection. "Hey Alex?" I whispered. It moved. I freaked out. I bolted out of the room and locked myself in the storeroom, the only place with no windows. I waited until the sun was up to leave. I bought some sage in a local shop, knowing I needed that thing out. I got home and waited in my room as it got dark. No one was home. Well, for at least an hour more. I turned the lights on. It was in its usual place. I started to burn the sage. I looked at myself in the window's reflection and then at Alex. My heart raced. I took a step closer, still looking at the reflection. My hands were shaking, causing ash to fall on the floor. The smoke from the sage started to reach Alex. "Why?" was whispered on inhaling and echoed in my ears. It disappeared for a second from the reflection. But I felt it appear behind. The reflection proved my feelings. But it was different. The sickly yellow glow was the first I saw towering over me. Then the big hand with claws reached and squeezed mine until I dropped the sage. Then I saw the head. It was half rotten. Well, not rotten. Like it was rotten before, but then the new perfect skin enveloped dead and rotten tissues still deformed and deflated. Like if you pressed just hard enough, the pus and gore would burst out. But that was just half the face. The other was worse. The same skin doubled still healthy one and pushed on it, deforming the features and making the face look like it was in constant agony. And the eyes. They weren't physical, it seemed. They were definitely eyes. But no life was in them, no glow. They were the only part that didn't have that yellow sickly glow. But they were looking. I felt claws press into my back. Sharp pain coursed into my brain. I turned to face it, still holding my hand. I saw blood on its claws. I saw the same skin making its way inside its rotting abdomen and ribs. And its eyes looking not in my, not at me. "I will free you." The same whisper echoed. I heard the knock on the door. Alex disappeared. I felt my t-shirt getting wet. I touched my back. And felt blood on my fingertips. So there I was. Standing in my room. Sage burning on the floor. My eyes glossy with tears. The thing was gone, but I didn't feel relieved. Because deep down I knew it was still here. But then something worse happened. My mom walked in. She immediately realized something was wrong. Mom took in my shaking figure, saw the big forming bruise on my hand. She cupped my face, looking me straight in the eyes. "Who did this?" I couldn't utter a word. I knew what she thought about the worst thing that could happen to a child. "No. Mom. You know you can trust me, right? Mom, please. She hugged me and I winced. I felt her tense. She turned me around and saw blood. "It's just paint, Mom." At that moment I knew that with every word, truth or lie, I would break the trust I had with my mom more and more. I felt immense guilt building inside. I couldn't bear the thought of looking at her distraught face. "I'm sorry." Mom just said nothing in return. She walked me in the bathroom, took my t-shirt off and started to patch me up. I knew she was trying to keep herself together. But I heard her labored breaths and few sobs. I wanted to hug her, to thank her, to reassure her, but as I tried to face her, she stopped me with a shaking, gentle touch and I left the bathroom, not looking back. The door closed quietly behind me and I heard the sink running. Guilt. Guilt was consuming me. Eating at my existence. I walked inside my room and laid on the bed. I didn't notice the reflection or presence near my bed appearing. I really didn't care about what happened to me next. So I waited until it was quiet in my home and I started packing my things. It was irrational, but at the moment it felt like the only right decision. But only for the moment. "Sis?" My sister was standing at the door looking sleepy and confused. "I'm just searching for something. Go to sleep." "Do you know why Mom was crying?" I don't know." I looked away and saw Alex in the reflection. It was within the reach distance of my sister. Its blurred form was stretching towards my little sister's head. "Don't leave." I heard two voices whispering. I panicked. I rushed to my sister and grabbed her in a tight embrace, trying to cover her from Alex. With the tears in my eyes, I started to chant. "I won't. I would never leave. I promise. Please. I would never." I closed my eyes, trying to stop the tears. The fear of losing my little sister just paralyzed my mind. "You are going to crush me." Before letting her go, I looked at the window. It was in its usual place. I shakily breathed out and smiled. "Now get back to sleep. Okay?" She nodded and walked away, looking back at me a couple of times before closing the door as I sat on the floor. At that point, I felt like losing my mind. All the fear, anger, confusion and guilt that had been building inside of me for months bursted out. I started crying, then laughing, then laughter turned into silent cries. I was crumbling on the floor. I felt Alex staring intently. What do you even want from me?" I whispered weakly. It didn't move. "Alex. I will free you," it whispered again. "I don't need that. Please leave." What does that even mean? The room was filled with silence. Then I felt the piercing touch on the skin again. No. No, 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 no. I jumped immediately and rushed to the corner, pressing my bloody back to the wall. It was in front of me, glowing with the same terrifying expression. I closed my eyes, but I still saw its gaze peering into my chest. So here I am now. I haven't left the house since, and it is already more than 3 weeks. I am too afraid it will do something to my family the moment I step outside. I didn't try to talk to it either. Because every time I tried, I decided to claw its way inside my spine. My mom thinks something horrible happened, and so does my father. But they don't try and talk to me about that. I guess they think I need space. The burn on the floor caused by the sage was found but not questioned. I don't look at Alex. I don't acknowledge Alex. I don't draw Alex. But Alex is all that is on my mind. It doesn't matter what Alex is really. A demon, ghost from the cemetery, spirit trapped on my property, an imaginary friend turned real, or maybe all of them. I feel like I am sitting on a mine. And the wrong move will just. My birthday will be on the 1st of May. I was waiting for it. But I dread it now. Maybe I have until then. Maybe this is the last story I will ever tell. I don't really know. I don't want to be remembered as a mutilated corpse in the news or a crazy daughter. But I am afraid of what will happen after. I am afraid of my own screams. And I hope nothing comes next after my death.